Thanks for joining, and yeah, welcome for at our Workplace Ninja User Group Netherlands 2021 kickoff. So I was thinking 2020, but luckily we passed that stage. Hopefully everybody is healthy and yeah, able to work. Today we don't really have a technical session. Today we want to share what is coming in this new year, full of community, and so let's quickly move on.
Yeah, can I kick in?
Yep.
Okay, let's do that. Even though we are not hosting on-premises meetings, we do need sponsors to organize these kinds of events. So a special thanks to our sponsors and technical partners. And this is also maybe a request to the audience. If you work in a company who is willing to contribute to our community, and willing to become maybe sponsor or technical partner, please contact one of us so that we can actually start talking with you about what the advantages are, disadvantages, etc. And hopefully we can put your company in this list of already terrific companies helping our community out.
Exactly. So, as a quick introduction, let's first, if we walk through the agenda, let's first take a step back, introduce who we are, when we were founded, why we had the name change. Until last month we were the Windows Management User Group Netherlands, and we want to share the upcoming events, what we will do when COVID ends, and we have a lot more to share.
It didn't fit in the agenda.
No. And it's also a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah. So again, to start, I'm not going to rephrase what's in the slides here, but we started in 2013, so that's already 8 years ago, and we actually started with the idea of starting an independent user group, and in order to do so, we actually created what we call a foundation. Where we actually make sure that the expenses and all the incoming money can be covered and can be paid, etc. So what our goal of the user group is actually we want to create a platform, and that actually basically means that we want to facilitate community meetings, and that's actually what we are doing. So even though you sometimes see one of the WMUG or Workplace Ninja members presenting on one of our meetings, that's not our primary goal. So our primary goal is to provide a platform where we can actually share information with each other. And we do that actually by organizing on-premises meetings, virtual events, but we are also blogging, doing other stuff. So it's all about knowledge sharing. And therefore, it's also important to share with our audience that if you want to contribute to our user group, that we really invite you to contact us. And if you hesitate because you do not have enough experience, etc., please do not let that withdraw you from actually reaching out to us, because we have some experienced speakers within our user group, and we really want to help you to become maybe a speaker or to share information, just like we are doing at the moment. Yeah, so exactly. That's actually what we are doing as a user group at the moment.
Yeah, and for sure for newer speakers or speakers who want to try to do his first presentation for an audience you don't really know. Normally the on-premises events are not that big, maybe 20, 30, 40 at the most, and yeah, people are there always to help each other and share their knowledge also. So it's not that it's an audience with full of enemies that want to
No, not
tackle
at
you.
all.
No. So we are really friendly user group, and all the members are really friendly.
Yeah, that's correct. We will share later on how you can actually maybe introduce a session to us. So
Yeah, exactly. So who are we? We like Kenneth told you, we have a foundation, and that foundation is an official one. So we have an official board uh, consisting of me, Kenneth, Bob, and Eric, and with we also have the user group organization committee, currently existing of Arjan, Ari, and Adnan. And we see, yeah, Ari is waving. uh, and we see a lot of other people also joining and sometimes helping out if we have a larger event, or just by facilitating a venue because your company has a nice room where we can fit in with our user group and organize a presentation.
I cannot click next.
No, yeah,
So we need to do that. So with that name change, we are actually really excited to announce that both Frans Oudendorp and Ronnie de Jong are joining our user group. Thanks for the applause, Ari. We are hearing it. But I think that actually with the addition of both Frans and Ronnie, welcome guys, we can actually become a more do more things within the user group. And we will explain a little bit more about what more actually means. But both Frans and Ronnie have a lot of experience also when it comes to community. And we from the WMUG, or the Workplace Ninjas User Group Netherlands, as we should call it now, are actually very excited that Frans and Ronnie are joining us. And I think we can expect a lot of news and new things coming up from both guys. So welcome.
yeah, welcome guys, and you may introduce yourselves later on.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, and introduction will be done later
on. So why the name change? And like Kenneth also was doing, I'm not going to read everything out loud, but in the last couple of years, we didn't think the Windows management user group was the complete fit anymore, and like from the start we didn't stuck with only Windows management. We also had side steps with Azure, and I remember a really good WMUG Saturday where artificial intelligence was one of the subjects. So we do a lot more than only Windows management. Same counts for Workplace. We do a lot more than Workplace, but often the majority of the sessions are related to Windows or are related to Workplace NES. And as being part of the Workplace NES Summit last year, the organization of that, they also started to have user groups adopting the name and the brand and everything around it. And for us, it was a good way to move forward and adopt this Workplace Ninja user group name and join the Workplace Ninja family. And currently there are already user groups in Switzerland and of course Switzerland and Germany, Munich, and I think there will be a lot more user groups appearing in the next period. So with that, we have the power of the WMUG together with the Ninja, and this is the new logo.
Nice animation. Very good. But I do think that actually with this name change, we can actually maybe create a 2.0 WMUG with that.
Yeah.
And actually, we are really looking forward to keep continuing organizing events, but with this name change.
So if we look at the organizational structure, we have the Workplace NIA Summit. It's an annual event. Unfortunately, last year it was a digital one, but it was a 3-day event, which was very successful. This year it will also be a digital version, and hopefully we will see COVID go away, and then we have an on-premises event in Zurich next year in Switzerland, and hopefully it will be really great. And currently, like I said, there are 3 user groups part of the family. And then I already clicked. But nothing is happening.
Nope.
Let's do this differently. Let's do it like this. See my screen again?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with the name change, of course, we changed the way you can reach us on social media. We were actually quite happy that we could rename a lot of our accounts because, or else we had to build a new list of followers, etc. And due to our requests in the past of subscribing to our YouTube channel, we now actually reached the amount of people necessary to create a friendly name for our YouTube channel. So for the people who subscribed to our YouTube channel, thanks for that, because we now have a better recognizable name for our YouTube channel when looking at the URL. So great. You don't have to do anything. If you were subscribed or following us already, you are actually now following our new naming. So we don't have to request you to follow us because we have a new name, which is actually quite nice.
And unfortunately we couldn't shorten the name, the YouTube name, but it's better than a GUID. So
Indeed.
So next, upcoming events, because we like to share knowledge, of course. That's the reason why we exist. So we are happy to announce more than a handful of speakers and sessions upcoming for the upcoming months. Next week we will start with Adnan. 2 weeks after, Kenny Buntings will share his knowledge, most likely about Endpoint Manager, but I was promised to get a description today. But we will update the meetup when we have the information. Our own Kenneth will share his knowledge on the 16th of February about conditional access.
As already said in the former slides, so even though we are named Workplace Ninjas, we are not limited to that. So a good example of that is that we actually on the 2nd of March we have Thomas Maurer, talking about Azure Arc, which is not workplace related, but interesting even though. 2 weeks after, we have Patrick van der Born on deploying WVD with Azure DevOps, Terraform, and Packer. Will be an interesting session as well. And we have Peter Dalmans coming up next. He would have given us a session description, but he forgot as well. So, it will most probably be related to modern workplace endpoint management or modern management as we know it today.
I still need to figure out a good session.
You have time
so
enough.
if you have requests, let me know. And last but not least, we also have Greg Ramsey, based in Seattle, which he will join us and tell us a story around automation for Intune and Azure AD. This will be a custom session for us, or at least a new session, because he normally automates around ServiceNow nowadays. So he's creating a brand new one. And then we have a lot of question marks, at least until the summer. The dates will be shared on Meetup. So yeah, if you want to talk at our user group in a webinar or later on this year in a smaller setting, maybe go to Sessionize. This one is still called WMUC-NL. Submit your session and you definitely get the opportunity to join us during one of the events coming up.
Yeah. So yeah, what's the idea when COVID ends, and we are actually able to meet each other physically again? We have been in talks already about organizing events, even though the restrictions were in place. But actually, when we wanted to formalize that, we actually got more and more restrictions, actually making it impossible to have these meetings. Even maybe with less people and doing something live in parallel. So because of that, we actually decided to organize virtual meetings only at the moment. And we, as you can see already in the announced agenda, we are going to continue doing that. But if permitted, we have some other things coming up as well. So we are still planning on organizing Lowlands Unite, which we do with some Belgium community groups. Of course, we have the on-premises events all around the country. Okay, so we are organizing Access Live and not organizing, but we are helping to organize Access Live. Eric and I are involved as speaker managers over there. We are also thinking about reintroducing the WMUC-NL Saturdays, but in this case as Workplace Ninjas Use Group NL Saturdays, where we are actually going to work with how we call it, hands-on labs and doing stuff there. Peter is very much involved in organizing the Windows Workplace Ninja Summit virtual event, which takes place once per year, which hopefully will be physical as well this year. And we have a lot more coming up. So keep following us on social media, and we will do our best to inform you about everything that we are doing.
Yeah, and if you have a subject you missed, please let us also know, or some kind of new initiative, like we will share as from the next slide. Yeah, just contact us. We like Kenneth said, we are a platform, and you can use the platform to share your knowledge or to share your ideas or whatsoever. So with that, I want to hand over to Frans and Ronnie.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Can you see the slide deck?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, well, thank you guys for the great introduction, and yeah, awesome to be officially now being part of the Workplace Ninjas the Netherlands, or Workplace Ninja User Group the Netherlands. Just getting used to the new name. As you can see, Frans and I are former colleagues, and we are in the past we also involved with many community activities, and that's why the reason why we also are joining this great user group, and we will continue introducing ourselves and also how we get involved with the user group and the plans we having. As mentioned with Peter and Kenneth, there are many engagements with the user group, but also the given circumstances of COVID, we are more forced to thinking out of the box, and we're hoping to get new formats, new way of getting interaction with the community. So let's move on. Short introduction of myself. Ronnie de Jong. I'm working for Inspark as principal consultant almost 10 years. Usually working in the space in the area of endpoint management, enterprise mobility. I'm also Microsoft MVP in that area. And as you can see, active in the community for many years, and you can also follow me by my blog ronniedejong.com or via Twitter. And further on, I'm mainly focusing on the identity part of the endpoint of enterprise mobility, the management part, and the security part of it. So that's in general who I am and what I'm doing day to day. And furthermore, I of course have some hobbies like running, football, Formula One, barbecuing, and also sometimes when time is left over, I'm trying to catch some carbs. So that's basically who I am. Frans?
And then Frans Oudendorp, lead security consultant at Wortel. Former colleague of Ronnie already said. Also active in the community, having my own podcast regarding talking security. Can be followed on Twitter, LinkedIn, and other social media stuff. Mainly focusing from the past, from the workplace, and the last few years heading into the security part of the workplace. Also, there's some community thing around Azure Heroes. I have also a badge on that. Also public speaking on events, webinars, live streams, whatever. And also, like Ronnie already said, some hobbies, but mostly Ronnie is running and I will biking. So I will do some more kilometers on that.
I'm running behind you.
Yeah, I do some more kilometers, but that will fit, yes.
So within the introduction, as mentioned, Frans and I did in the past some community engagements via various engagements like Experts Live, and we always kept contact to each other, and we were wondering how we can keep interactive and being engaged within the community, and that's actually where all this started last year in the summer. We had some conversations, and just wondering, are we willing to start a new initiative? Is there enough space for it? Do we have the energy to do that? And at some point in time, Frans or I had the idea, okay, why shouldn't we join a current user group initiative and yeah, to add our value, and if possible, if they are open for it, to participate. So that's actually where we reached out to Peter, Kenneth, and then just wondering, okay, we have some ideas, and are you open for it? And how that fits out. And we had a few meetings, and yeah, at the first moment, everyone was positive, was excited, seeing the opportunities, working together, broadening the members, and also make things easier, and introducing new initiatives. So that's actually, I believe in November last year that we all agreed, okay, let's do this. And there were also some plans about renaming the WAMUC, so that actually came all together at the same time, and where we can introduce the rebranding as well as introducing Frans and myself. So that actually turned out well, and that's actually the resulting here, that we also great to being here and taking part of the Workplace Ninjas, and share knowledge and helping the community by organizing events. Hopefully will be physical events or other digital events. And of course, I think Frans, you can elaborate it a bit more on the other virtual events.
Yeah, when joining a user group which is doing actually multiple stuff like webinars, on-prem stuff, and so on. So the question to us, to Ronnie and myself, was what can you do to add value to, in this case, the Workplace Ninjas? And we are very limited at the moment because we only have online tools to our to have things to do. And then we had, Ronnie and I, we had some discussion. What can we do? We can present in a webinar, doing other stuff, but that is not. Then we do nothing others than the user group already does. So when we're thinking of that, we came to Ask Me Anything, but if we do that together, Ask Me Anything, what then? So the idea is to have an live Ask Us Anything, but not only us. We will invite guests on several topics to have a discussion on a topic, on another thing, and then that can be published on YouTube with the video, but also the audio will be processed as a podcast and delivered on the different media like Apple, Google, Spotify, and all other media that are available. So it's live. There can be interaction from the community, so you can join a live event, ask your questions to us, to our guests. Then it will be an interactive session, and afterwards it will be published as only audio, so on all the podcast media, and also on YouTube, so you can watch it later on back. But it's more a discussion, not presenting something, but have a discussion, interact with all the community peers around the world to have real interactive stuff on that. And then, there will be several topics that we can have. Maybe Ronnie, you can have some topics that we have already described.
Yeah, here you see the list. We have a few bullets, just having some ideas. We were thinking out loud. Okay, what great topics or themes we do have we can cover, and but here you have a few examples about themes which might be actual these days or relative to you. From the other side, or relevant to you. From the other side, we would like to get engaged and have interaction with the community. We all part of it, and just giving you the voice. Okay, just determine what are your priorities. What are you if you want to decide which topics are more relevant to you, what topic would be that? What would be on the list, and what would be great to having in more details covered. Also where we can prepare or inviting external speakers like speakers from Microsoft, from the product groups, and have a broader discussion and going way more deeper than normally can do. So these are a few topics, areas we might be interesting for you, but we'd love to have you part of it to decide which topics we should cover first. So we try to make it as interactive as possible, and I have to switch my screen for a better experience. So give me one moment to set it up correctly. I'm just stopping sharing my screen, and we're getting back to a different screen, which is easier for me. Hang on. There you go. Let's put it full screen. Okay, we already covered this. Yeah, let's make it interactive. So we started with Mentimeter, and I will copy in the link so you can submit your vote and make it interactive. So I'm copying into the chat. There you go. So when you're clicking on the link in the chat, you will go directly to the menti.com without using the code, or you can go to menti.com and use the code as you see on the screen, or you can use the link directly and just starting it. Okay. And now there we go. Is it starting here?
It should. First one is added.
Yeah. There we go. Takes some time. We have three people already submitted their vote. So the idea is, based on your input, we're making some priorities about the topics we suggested. And we now have 11, 12 people still counting, so that's working fine. I have some latency between the screen at my side, where the Menti is real time, and getting refreshed in the presentation. Let's see. Okay, the first place is, how do I deal with the security awareness and ensure that my organization is secure?
That's a good one.
Yes, for some reason it
should be updated, but
yes, the votes are still coming in. We are almost having 30 votes. No, it's still not refreshing. I wouldn't click on the reset results. That's odd to me.
That's what we call Murphy's Law, Ronnie. Eh?
Yeah, I'm not that often facing Murphy, so it's one of my first times I met Murphy, but it doesn't matter.
Voting closed.
Yeah, we closed the votes, and
if you go back and refresh,
That's strange. It was working normally, but
A few seconds ago. It's always the same.
let's see if I'm missing here. Yeah, we just prepared yesterday, but nevertheless, let's put it that way. It's also working.
Yeah.
Make it practical. Well, this is actually the results of the votes. Received 33 votes, so thank you for that. And actually, this is the outcome of the first question is, okay, which topic you rather prefer to cover? And yeah, on the first place is how to deal with security awareness and ensure that my organization is secure. So that's definitely a good one, followed by optimizing productivity. Part of it is productivity score, endpoint analytics, and workplace analytics. And on the third place, what about your password hygiene? When we are talking about passwordless, so I think that's a good start of get into more details on the next planned podcast. I believe it's the 26th of January, Frans.
It will be the 26th of January, and then if we go back to the slides on the next one, I will elaborate a little bit more on the planning. But before that, I think there was some other things that you want to mention. But I think it's a good one that we will host on the 26th of January.
Yeah, and then based on the outcome of the voting, and then on this poll, then we can also continue on prioritizing and planning the other topics. So then, thank you for having these insights. We had also another poll. Perhaps I have to do it this way. No, it's not working. We had the second one, which we want to ask you which topics you prefer on your personal interest, without providing you some suggestions. But yeah, for some reason it doesn't work. But
well, actually, Ronnie, if you have the page still opened, you actually have 3 questions which you can answer at the moment.
Yeah, otherwise just put it in meeting chat if you have a cool subject.
yeah, and that was indeed the second one. Which other topics, beside these suggested topics or themes, which other topics you like to see being covered? And indeed, we can use the chat, for instance, to drop your suggestions. So if you indeed have other topics or things you say, hey, that's quite interesting for me, I'd like to have more insights of it, and then please feel free to drop it in the meeting chat, so we can pick it up from there.
Yeah, and if there is something later on, please reach out to us through social or through email or whatever, but or call us if you have an ID and you know someone who can participate as a guest because he knows much on a specific topic or something else. Let us know.
Yeah. To be honest, I do see it's working. Only it's not being applied to the presentation.
Nah, not a problem. And we will pick it up.
Yeah. So what we can do is we can also share it afterwards with people actually attending the meeting. So.
Yes. Can we go to the next slide, Ronnie? Or do you have a screenshot of the topics that Free filled in? Luke. Information protection, config manager. Cloud App Security.
SolarWinds uncovered would be interesting as well.
Yeah, I think then I speak for my personally. My next podcast will will about that one.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay, looks great. I think there are topics that we can do something with that. So that we will cover some of the topics in one of the next live Ask Me Anything event, and so we can share it afterwards. Yeah, and if it comes to planning, when will we do that? The first one is on the 26th of January, because there are 2 webinars a month, on the 2nd and then the 4th, and that's mixed up a little bit. So I was trying, together with Ronnie, I've tried to set the recording for the Ask Us Anything podcast or live event on the last Tuesday or the Tuesday before the last one, and that's because of the planning of the webinars that already has been done. So it's the 26th of January, the 23rd of February, also because the short month of February, it will be the 23rd of March, the 20th of April, 18th of May, and 29th of June. We also have planned for July and after the holidays, but that will be shared on the meetup or on other channels, but you will be informed on all that. And with that, that is the introduction of our new initiative on under the Workplace Ninjas flag. And I see we have already covered 45 minutes, and we have planned 2 hours. So with that, the kickoff of Workplace Ninjas has been done for 2021, and now we have a few minutes, an hour left. So let's start to have a sneak preview of what we will do in our Ask Us Anything session. And we have taken conditional access as the main topic for this moment, and that has a reason, because when you look into the below bullets, there are 2 dates, 21st of January, Workplace Ninjas Munich, and the 16th of February on the Workplace Ninjas Netherlands. And Kenneth will host a session on conditional access. And let's have, we have discussed it already, but let's have a short discussion about conditional access. Not directly the whole session of Kenneth, because otherwise we don't have, we need that session anymore on that specific date, but let's have a discussion. And also Peter and Ronnie, I will ask you to join, and also you, if you have questions on this topic, please reach out into the Teams chat and let us know what questions you have, and we will try to cover that and answer that. And Kenneth, if I start, you have wrote several blog articles about conditional access. If I start with that, what was the reason that you have started with that blog series?
Well, actually, the reason was, maybe not obvious, but actually, when I started working with conditional access, I actually started reading blogs of other people blogging a lot. And at that time, I wasn't blogging a lot myself, so actually, I started trying out actually all those different blog posts in my own environment, by implementing first a conditional access policy and then another one. And actually, based on that, I actually ended up with an environment where, to be honest, I actually locked myself out of accessing the environment myself. And I actually had to create a support call with Microsoft in order to give my account access again. And actually, that was actually the reason why I decided for myself, I really need to figure out how this works. Because, of course, I cannot have this experience as one of my customers. They will probably kill me if that happens. So actually, that was the main reason why I decided I want to become proficient in actually what conditional access is. And to be honest, it has been a learning curve, and I'm still learning here, because conditional access, of course, is based on scenarios which you want to implement into an environment. And therefore, actually, if you would ask me, Kenneth, what is conditional access? Even though that the name already implies what it is, you actually give access based on conditions. It can be really complex to implement, and therefore, actually, you really have to find a way to come up with a sort of conditional access baseline. One I have defined for myself and already shared with on my blog as well. But besides me doing that, there are of course other people in the world who have their own security baseline. But I think that having a baseline and starting from a baseline, which is of course tested and has proven itself, is actually a good starting point to start implementing your own conditional access policies. And especially today with the whole COVID-19 crisis and people working from home, actually the need for good conditional access policy is only becoming more and more at the moment. So therefore, based on my experience, the fact that I've done it wrong, not one time, but several times already, I think I encountered and have gained enough experience to actually share my experience on virtual events, share it with customers, people reaching out through my blog, and that's actually what I love to do. So that's it.
And with that, you will also be on what I already said on the both Workplace Ninja webinars, the virtual events, where you will present about the conditional access demystified, as it calls the session is called. Yeah. Peter, and Kenneth already explained what is conditional access. Could you elaborate a little bit more how it can be used, what we can do with it?
Yeah, sure. And I want to make one point. A lot of customers I see nowadays is they are still thinking old, and they want to block things, and they want to block access by default, and then create holes like we used to do with firewalls. And when working with conditional access, you need to rethink everything and change your mindset, because like Kenneth already explained, this under what conditions I'm allowing access. So on what device am I allowing access to, for instance, Exchange Online? And if I'm on such a device, I'm indirectly also blocking everything else. If I'm only allowing access to use a compliant iOS device, and I'm trying to get access from an Android device, which is not managed, which is not compliant, I'm automatically blocking access from such a device. So in my opinion, you need to rethink how to design your conditional access policies in general, not thinking about blocking everything, because everything is open by default. That's I don't know, maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, but it's by creating scenarios like Kenneth said, you also block everything which is not part of such a scenario, if you do it right, of course.
And is conditional access only about accessing applications, or can we do multiple stuff with that?
Good question. It can do multiple stuff with that, but in my daily job, I'm often use it to protect the cloud services of Microsoft and maybe third-party applications which are federated with Azure AD, which third-party applications where Azure AD is the identity provider, and then you can also use conditional access to control access to applications like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are coming in some questions. One question from Pascal. How to deal with personal devices, work from home, and compliant devices? If we use our own personal computer at home to access stuff, and we have a compliant device, what is the difference? Ronnie, maybe you can answer that question.
Yeah, I was already putting my insights or vision on it. Well, actually, in basic, you can distinct conditional access in two parts. You can distinct it over the axis of identity, protecting your identities, and the next step is protecting your devices. So by applying conditional access over the identity axis, then you apply identity subject to the conditions you're applying to these rules. And that's actually the first start. So you're protecting your identities and you are protecting your resources from being accessed with a correct identity, a trusted identity. And also, as an additional to it, also require, for example, step-up authentication like MFA. As Pascal mentioned, when you're coming from a managed device, you can also use the trust level of a device and incorporate it in your conditions, whether or not being able to access your resources. But if it's an unmanaged device, yeah, you can differentiate it. For example, you're not able to open a document for editing from a personal device, but when it's a corporate device which is managed, then you do so. So that's actually how you can distinct with conditional access. And I'm always urging our customers, starting with applying conditional access over the axis of identity, and then move on. The next steps is applying conditional access, incorporating also your device state. So that's in a phased approach, because you can't apply conditional access at once for everything.
Yeah.
As Kenneth mentioned, then you might turn out or facing issues and challenges, like in the chat also. Ruling out legacy authentication, yeah, that can be challenging as well. And one thing to point out, and then give it back to you, Frans. One important thing which is way powerful to get insights of how to apply these policies is start using workbooks. And by starting using workbooks, you are providing yourself insights, and by putting the conditional access rules in a report only mode, you then have insights. Okay, when I'm applying that block legacy authentication, this might be the impact of my install base, and then you are more in control and also preventing in the situation Kenneth mentioned, that you're blocking things and then have some bad things in production.
And conditional access evaluation, the new feature that I introduced last few months, is that more or less the same as workbooks? Do you know that, Ronnie?
No. What I mean with the workbooks give you insights. So actually, workbooks are reports, just giving you the insights. Okay, when I'm applying this conditional access policy, this is the effect. When you're talking about continuous access evaluation, that's a different process where continuously your access being checked. Yeah. So as Kenneth mentioned, you are defining conditions in a way resources can be accessed or are blocked. And by putting in these continuously access evaluation, normally if you're logging in with, you have a token, and that token is valid for 10 hours. So you can adjust the token lifecycle and the validation period. So you can put it in 10 hours, others say 7 hours, or shorter, longer. But when you're talking about continuously access evaluation, if there is something is changing in your session, or you going to a different IP address or any factors, your access is continuously validated if you whether or not allowed to access resources. So that's more fine-grained and next step of next level of conditional access.
Yeah, so we can protect the users more or less, not only when we access stuff, but also when we have access and there are changing stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. For example, you have a valid token for the validation of 10 hours, but in the meantime, your membership has changed, and you're removed from a security group, and that implies you're no longer allowed to access it. That normally, because the token was valid for 10 hours, you still have access, and with continuously access evaluation, you will be blocked.
Great feature.
Yeah.
Kenneth, when I hear several things about conditional access, do I need a design strategy upfront? We implement conditional access as a full-featured stuff?
The answer to that is actually yes, because and I can tell that because I learned the hard way. But if you decide not to think about this upfront, you will hit some serious issues along the way. So based on that, actually making a good design for this, hopefully you have the ability to test it as well. It's actually quite important to do a successful implementation. And if you don't do it and use a step-by-step approach, you will hit some serious issues which you need to solve later on. And again, this is of course easily said by me, but I can tell you from experience that if you don't think about it up front, you will have some major issues later on.
Yeah, I know. I also covered some issues at customers, but I think most of the people who are implementing this stuff has done it right and sometimes not right, but we learn. Everyone is learning from that, and sharing this knowledge with the community is helping also from that. Jan has a question about the device state as a condition, but also access control. Peter, maybe you can elaborate more on the differences, like conditions and the device state as a condition and access control. Which is better in a simple scenario where you want to use MFA on a non-compliant device, for example?
Yeah, of course, it depends on the scenario. And the device state I don't use that often because you can check if a device is hybrid Azure AD joined, for instance, or if it's compliant. But you cannot you cannot select to have both applicable. So it's either compliant or hybrid Azure AD join.
Yeah.
And you can exclude hybrid and Azure AD join, which means that they are joined to the local domain and registered to Azure AD, and then combined they become hybrid Azure AD join. So it can be hybrid Azure AD join and not compliant. So, and not compliant may be that there is a risk active and detected by Microsoft Defender for endpoints, for instance, and then it still allows you access to your application or whatsoever. So I rather use the access controls, and then yeah, depends on the scenario, but in this case I would use both, so and not the or.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, if you start using compliancy as one of the measurement points in your conditional access policies, you will actually, what I see at most of my customers is that actually if you look into the environments, that more than half of the machines are not compliant. And that when starting to work with conditional access, actually that compliancy is actually becoming an important factor to determine whether you want to allow or disallow access to the environment. And that actually basically means that as a consultant, if you get the assignment to work on conditional access policies, that you might have to get involved in how Intune or Microsoft Endpoint Manager is configured as well. And that can actually broaden the scope of the work that you are going to do extensively. And that's something you have to take into account as well. I do think, and I'm speaking maybe for all of us, we call ourselves modern workplace consultants nowadays, which is actually quite a broad topic. But you have to know about all these specific points, especially when you are creating conditional access policies, because with the conditional access policies, everything comes together.
Yeah. So to give you another example, in this point, if you want to block Android, for instance, you can say, okay, I want to target or assign this policy which is applicable for all platforms. So Windows, iOS, Android, and so on. And the device needs to be compliant. And you basically want to block Android. A good way of doing that, instead of blocking access by using block rules in conditional access, which I'm definitely not a fan of, you can just disable enrollment of Android devices in Intune. So you make sure that an Android device never becomes compliant, and then you just block also Android devices by just the fact that it's not ever going to be a compliant device, and you just use an allow rule instead of a block rule.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And if we look at troubleshooting, we have several integrations. Integration with Cloud App Security for accessing applications, for example. Integration with Defender for advanced threat protection, nowadays called as Microsoft Defender for endpoints. There are lots of stuff where conditional access is integrating with Intune, already mentioned, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, as it's called nowadays, but also integration with cloud attached devices, config manager, and that sort of stuff. What does that do with troubleshooting, Kenneth?
Well, the first starting point when you are going to troubleshoot conditional access is actually your Azure AD signing logging. So that will be the basis. We can do that in two ways. We can actually use the near real-time logging when you have a specific case, and as Ronnie already mentioned, use the workbooks to gain some experience in how many failed login attempts did we have, how many good login attempts. That's for the continuous monitoring. But when it comes to actually monitoring whether a conditional access policy is working, yes or no, I would advise to actually start with the Azure AD sign-in logging and work from there. And in the last couple of months, Microsoft actually added a lot of functionality related to conditional access, helping you actually to determine which conditional access policy caused the block to the data, in this case, and which item in the conditional access policy was actually causing that. So if you would ask me where to look when troubleshooting conditional access policies, Azure AD sign-in logging is your best friend there.
Yeah, and if we look at troubleshooting, then we have mostly already implemented several stuff. Multi-factor legacy authentication already mentioned. Multi-factor is one of the key components that is activated with conditional access. Is that what we start always with, Ronnie? Multi-factor and conditional access, is that the first step in your opinion?
Well, in the past, we were used to apply a multi-factor authentication to mitigate the risk of compromised accounts. Well, we know MFA is a very powerful control to mitigate that risk. And in the past, we did it in a different way, where we are assigning it directly. And with the use of conditional access, we are more granularly able to apply that. So yeah, first of all, shift applying MFA. That's actually, MFA is basic hygiene. So in the first place, apply MFA to make sure that you're protecting your assets. Legacy authentication has already been mentioned, because when applying MFA and you're still using legacy authentication, it's actually the same when locking the front door but leaving the rear door open. So that's the second approach by using the conditional access rules. So that's definitely one of the first things start with. Not in the last place, also start applying MFA with your high potential or high impact accounts, like your admin accounts. And yeah, by default, Microsoft is already enforcing you that for the admin accounts. And also with the security defaults. But yeah, that MFA is the first step, followed by other rules. And then, as Kenneth mentioned, you have multiple use cases where you can use and utilize MFA. And what we are doing, for example, start protecting your administrative accounts with MFA. Start enforcing MFA and combined with the self-service password reset for your users. It's also depending on what your starting point is. Is it a greenfield scenario, or is it already a running environment? Because then it's taking more time and more planning carefully to implement multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, based on what your situation is, different scenarios can be possible to realize conditional access.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the strength of it is the same like guest accounts. By using the type and the roles, you can also easily apply these to the roles or your guest users without being managing the group memberships and making sure that everyone is subject to MFA. That's also one of the strengths of conditional access.
Yeah, and if we look at conditional access, multi-factor, we can, Kenneth already mentioned, we can close out our own admin accounts. Is there one of you guys, do you have a view on the use of break loss accounts? Peter or Kenneth?
Yeah, you need it. And to elaborate on that, in my opinion, every account should be protected by MFA because it will fix 99.9% of the account breaches, or it will prevent those breaches. Of course, if you have a user which is clicking or sharing IDs, then yeah. Human errors or misbehavior you cannot protect from, but so when protecting everything with MFA, you need break the class accounts. I think Microsoft is still saying that if you have a break the class account, you shouldn't protect it with MFA because MFA can break also. in my opinion, yeah, that could be the case, and then maybe limit it to only to be used from on-premises location, so your office or only one location. But you can also use a third-party MFA solution for those accounts. Use a cloud account if you have ADFS. Don't use ADFS. Don't use your on-premises accounts as a break the glass account, because ADFS can also break things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Renee also shared the current guidelines of Microsoft in the chat.
Microsoft Vision is also evolving on this particular topic, protecting your break the glass account, where it is a single account. Sometimes it's referred to having two break the glass accounts, one protected with MFA, the other without.
Yeah.
It's the same with password policies, for example. We used to change them frequently in the past, and with the strong password, now we don't have to change them, and yeah, you get the point.
Yeah. Yeah, and also with the latest breaches, everything around administrative accounts has also changed. I read a blog lately that Microsoft is now telling us to don't use administrative use on-premises accounts for your cloud maintenance, your cloud admins, because if on-premises is breached, like we've seen a lot lately, your cloud is also automatically breached. If you have only cloud accounts and keep them separate, then you will be at least a little bit better.
I think that what we can learn from this is actually that the recommendations from Microsoft themselves are continuously changing based on experience from the past, and that actually basically means that if you start adopting these kinds of techniques, that you also need to make sure that you can actually keep up with those techniques as well. And that is actually something I see a lot of my customers actually struggling with at the moment. That even though they made the change towards Microsoft 365, conditional access, etc., it's hard for them to keep up with all the changes coming up.
Yeah.
And I think that we as a user group also have maybe a responsibility to tell people attending our meetings of what those upcoming changes are and what to do to make sure that you are not surprised but informed upfront of what those changes can mean. And I think that maybe the legacy authentication and phasing out of that legacy authentication in Exchange Online is a good example of that as well.
Yeah, and if you have it on solutions or features that Microsoft is changing, legacy authentication is one of them. That will be closed down this summer, I think. Do we think that will be a real problem for our, maybe not our customers, but other customers that are not involved early enough and have done stuff to make it possible that legacy authentication can be shut down? Do you have a view on that, Kenneth?
Well, so when I join a new customer, the first thing I show them is actually the report in the Azure AD logging detailing the legacy authentication logins. And it's more than half of the logins is still legacy authentication. So people connecting using Exchange Active Sync, maybe POP, EMAP, etc. And that's the case. And that's actually the reason for that is because it's actually in the past it was quite normal to use legacy authentication. And if so, the longer that a company is actually in business with Microsoft 365, the bigger the chances that they are using legacy authentication. And to continue on that, actually changing that in most cases is not something we can do remotely. So we have to reach out to users and ask them to reconfigure their email clients, maybe update their operating system, maybe say we cannot support Android 7 anymore while it was working in the past. So that there's a lot of challenges popping up when you are actually touching the subject of legacy authentication.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I have seen several customers that are dealing with spear phishing, and the first thing a hacker is trying to do is get access to IMAP and verify if a username and password is correct.
Yeah.
So it's really needed that legacy authentication is shut down. So it will be absolutely protect the customers more and more.
Yeah, but we do see now that in the past customers could actually postpone these kind of things as long as they wanted. But now actually Microsoft is dictating that legacy authentication is going to be shut off. So you don't have an option anymore. You have to comply, or you will have a nice surprise at the moment that Microsoft really turns it off on their backends, because you can expect a lot of service desk calls from that point forward.
Yeah, I remember that they already postponed it for 1 year. So they were planning to do it last year, but due to COVID, they postponed the change. But yeah, maybe they will postpone it again if COVID stays around. But it's unlikely, I guess.
Yeah, but we have seen that, Peter, with other changes as well. But they will not postpone it definitely. So that
No.
in time that they will make the change, and it will be within now and 1 year most probably. So enough time to prepare. But people need to prepare for that.
Yeah, it should be on top of mind of those organizations, and that's not always the case.
Oh yeah. My experience, it will become an issue, but then when it's 5 minutes before 12, most probably. So.
Yeah, or they get compromised.
Yeah.
True.
I have another question of Willem. How about Azure AD Connect accounts? So the on-premise accounts and multi-factor. Needs these an exclusion within conditional access? If we use, for example, a multi-factor on-prem, whatever, can we do an exclusion? Can it?
Well, of course we can do exclusions, but what I see at many of my customers is actually that they are using what we call traditional service accounts to interact with Office or Azure. And also there we need to transition those service accounts into what we call service principals, or use managed identities within Azure itself. And therefore, actually, we will go towards a situation where actually the usage of service accounts is minimized. And then we can say, for example, okay, we do allow them, but only coming from certain one IP addresses. And then we have an extra security measure in place as well. But we cannot actually have non-personal accounts being able to access our company data from all around the world. That's not something we can do anymore, because it's actually waiting for a compromise. And most of the time, those accounts have extra rights as well within your environment. So you do not want to allow that.
No, there's one last question coming in, and I think it's a nice time to close this off and make it a wrap for this time. How does conditional access deal with IP version 6, Peter?
Not, I guess.
I don't think it's not related to IP version 4 or IP version 6. Yeah, you can exclude IP addresses, but if you can do IP addresses, you can probably also do IP version 6 addresses.
I don't think so yet, but for sure, for the scenario Kenneth described just now, you need to have some kind of IP addresses, which your default gateway to have it trusted. But if you just look at the broader picture and to have zero trust, you definitely also don't want to trust IP addresses, because they can also being spoofed and stuff like that. So zero trust approach, I wouldn't care if you are still in the hybrid or in the journey towards zero trust. Then you need to have something like that.
A good example, and that's something I always ask my customers, is customers actually having a one IP address which they list as trusted, and then I ask them, hey, which one IP address is your guest network using? And most of the times they actually tell me, that's the same one IP address. So that basically means that also the guest network within your company, which everyone can use, is actually trusted at that moment as well. And therefore actually going towards a zero trust model, where actually you always need to supply MFA and do all those kinds of stuff, is actually the way to go, in my opinion as well.
I fully agree. But that's not a change overnight. That's a journey for a lot of companies.
But
what we already said, when you start implementing a modern workplace, a conditional access is one of the key components that you have to implement. I think this discussion elaborates that. And also, if you implement conditional access, it's starting, but what you already said, Peter, it's a journey. So you have to evaluate on certain moments if the implementation is doing stuff good or needed some improvements on that. Okay, I think Ronnie, this is a sneak preview of what we will do in the next few months on several topics. If there is any other questions, please let us know. We will cover that. We will cover topics that you want, and we will have discussions on that. And do you want to be part of that? Please let us know. Peter, I do not know. Maybe someone can close it out.
I will just quickly point out our next meeting next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Adnan Hendricks, our own Adnan, will have a session. They're all on Meetup, and hope to see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.